Few rulers ever excelled at capturing the hearts of their subjects. Driven by lust for power, wealth, and pleasure, most figures of authority generally brushed aside their small folk in their pursuit to make only themselves happy. However, some lords and ladies possessed the rare ability to form a positive public image, even if it masked their more devious characteristics. Throughout A Song of Ice and Fire, no figure fell into that particular category of individual more clearly than Renly Baratheon. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Exploring Fiction. First a lord, and then a king, Renly made his claim to the Iron Throne not through birthright, but through being a champion of the people. He was loved by the southern highborn and lowborn alike, gathering the greatest army in the War of the Five Kings. Even that could not save him, however, and the man most qualified in all but blood to rule the Seven Kingdoms lost his stake in the Game of Thrones along with his life. So, who exactly is Renly Baratheon, and why is he such an interesting character? Let's explore. Renly was born in the year 277 AC to Lord Stefan Baratheon and Lady Cassana Estermont of Storm's End. He was the youngest of three brothers, of which Robert and Stannis Baratheon were the elder children. A year or two after Renly's birth, his parents perished in a shipwreck aboard the vessel Windproud as it returned from the Free Cities, sinking in a storm in Shipbreaker Bay. Despite this tragedy, Renly was a jolly, energetic young boy, playing and laughing through the Hall of Storm's End. When his oldest brother Robert rose and formed Robert's Rebellion, Renly, still a boy, stayed back and suffered the siege of his home with his older brother Stannis. At an early age he witnessed the toll of war, yet it did little to dampen his joyful spirit. As the rebellion concluded and Robert claimed the Iron Throne, he gifted Renly with the seat of Storm's End and declared him Lord Paramount of the Stormlands. Renly, still little more than a youth, heartily accepted the position. His brother Stannis, however, felt spurned and neglected, as he believed Robert had given away what was his by birthright to their younger sibling. Still, Renly sat and ruled in Storm's End as Stannis eventually rescinded to Dragonstone, and at 16, Renly finally left his home to make a lord's progress across the domain he oversaw. On his journey, he stopped at Tarth, where he danced with the maiden Brienne, sparking the devotion of a follower for life. Renly also visited Sunspear at some point as a young adult, where he was met with the seductive charms of Princess Arianne Martell. As noted by the Daughter of Dorne, the young Baratheon seemed more amused than tempted by her enticing ways. Soon, Renly returned to Storm's End, where he took on Loras Tyrell of Highgarden as a squire. Their relationship blossomed, and many believe they became quite intimate away from court. As he matured into full adulthood, Renly grew to be the most handsome and amiable of the Baratheon brothers. Tall and lean, Renly lacked a beard, but otherwise resembled his brother King Robert in his youth. He possessed an easy smile, black hair that was straight and thick and fell to his shoulders, and sparkling eyes that flashed either green or blue. Renly adorned himself with doublets and capes colored green in the manner of House Tyrell, pinning the clothes together with an emerald brooch, but also flashed the golden stag of his own House Baratheon. When battle approached, he was dressed in a suit of enameled green armor, topped with a green helm dressed with a pair of golden antlers designed by master blacksmith Tabo Mott. In a fight, Renly was known to wield both longsword and dagger. Though loved in the south, Renly was soon summoned to King's Landing by his brother, the King, where he was appointed to the small council as the Master of Laws. Entrusting the Stormlands to Sir Courtenay Penrose in his stead, Renly settled in the capital of the Seven Kingdoms, conducting his duties on the small council while protecting himself with a troop of no less than 30 personal guards. The first appearance of Renly Baratheon in A Song of Ice and Fire is in the initial novel, A Game of Thrones. As King Robert and his traveling court travel back to King's Landing from Winterfell, Renly joins them on the road with Sir Barristan Selmy and Sir Ilyn Payne. Not long after, Prince Joffrey is attacked in an act of self-defense by Arya Stark and her direwolf Nymeria, and as Robert's son attempts to explain his turmoil to his parents and the makeshift court of nobles, Renly flees the room, seized by uncontrollable laughter over Joffrey being bested by a girl. The matter is resolved without him, and the procession continues on its way. Once all are back and settled in King's Landing, Robert hosts the Hand's Tourney, a celebration of the naming of Eddard Stark as Hand of the King. But before such a ceremony can be concocted, it must be financed. So, the small council, with its new Hand Lord Eddard, meets to discuss the tourney and other significant news across the realm. Lord Eddard somewhat flounders in the confusing antics of the other council members, remembering a few days prior to when Renly showed him a picture of Margaery Tyrell and asked the Lord of Winterfell if she looked like Ned's sister Lyanna. Eddard had shaken his head and brushed the question aside, but even he couldn't have guessed Renly's more secret intentions. For he and Sir Loras Tyrell, the Knight of Flowers, are planning to make Robert cast aside the Queen Cersei Lannister and take up Margaery Tyrell as his new wife. They both believe the king would find the whole ordeal easier if Robert is reminded of his one true love, Lyanna Stark. However, their entire plan floats about in ethereal contemplation, save for the few who know of it, and all continues as normal in King's Landing. Renly enters and performs admirably in the tourney, falling to the lance of Sandor Clegane, the Hound. After the celebration, when the small council meets once again, Renly is one of the members who calls for the assassination of Daenerys Targaryen across the Narrow Sea, a view he shares with all save Lord Eddard and Sir Barristan. Later in the narrative, Renly joins his brother Robert as they hunt in the Kingswood, and witnesses the boar skewer the king. As Robert lays in the Red Keep, dying from his wounds, Renly approaches Lord Eddard and suggests that together they snatch the 3 royal children away from Queen Cersei before she can do the realm harm. Eddard refuses, opting to take a more noble and fatal approach, and so Renly flees King's Landing with Sir Loras Tyrell. Once King Robert finally succumbs to his wounds, Prince Joffrey is crowned king, and Renly is among those ordered back to King's Landing to kneel and swear fealty. As Renly has seemingly disappeared into the south, rumors abound among nobles and lowborn concerning Robert's death and his and Eddard's part in it. Still, Renly refuses the call to kneel. While in King's Landing dark events take place, Renly wins the loyalty of House Tyrell in the Reach. Already adored by Sir Loras, he weds Lady Margaery Tyrell and is officially crowned as king in the city of Highgarden, staking his claim in the newly unfolding War of the Five Kings. A Clash of Kings sees Renly Baratheon enjoying the splendor of kingship. He flies the Baratheon stag in his banners, but wears the green of House Tyrell, further increasing his reputation in the Reach. Even his crown shares the splendor of both houses. It is a ring of golden roses, and on its front sits a stag head carved of green jade with antlers and eyes of glittering gold. Parading through the Reach, Renly amasses the largest army in the War of the Five Kings. They love him despite his false claim to the Iron Throne, for depending on one's view, either Stannis or Joffrey holds the most legitimate backing to be king. The armies of Highgarden and the rest of the Reach disregard this, however, as Renly is a better man than any of his opponents and will make for a better king. With Lord Mace Tyrell as his hand, and Sir Loras Tyrell as the Lord Commander of his new Rainbow Guard, Renly moves throughout the southern lands, gaining followers and boosting morale by his mere presence. He refuses to march north, wishing instead to let the Starks and Lannisters destroy each other, allowing him to swoop in and crush the weary victor. So, as he waits, Renly throws tourneys to boost the mood of his soldiers and keep them occupied. It is during one of these tourneys, taking place at Bitterbridge, where Renly next appears in the flesh. Catelyn Stark, sent by her son Robb, the new king in the north, arrives at Bitterbridge to negotiate with Renly, just as Brienne of Tarth defeats Sir Loras to win the day's melee. Renly accepts Catelyn into his personal company, and she explains that Robb wishes to ally with him to defeat Tywin Lannister as he sits in wait at Harrenhal. Though maintaining his friendly air, Renly refuses, explaining that while he'd allow Robb to retain his title, he would not stand for the secession of the North from the Seven Kingdoms if he wins the Iron Throne. While Catelyn remains as a guest in his camp, the wrath of a brother finally draws Renly to true action. Sailing from Dragonstone, Stannis Baratheon lays siege upon Storm's End, and Renly is forced to act. Ever the diplomat, Catelyn negotiates and oversees a parley outside the capital of the Stormlands, bringing the warring brothers together again. Renly jovially addresses his brother, telling him to back down from the stronger army, and offers him a peach as a sign to enjoy the pleasure of life. But Stannis remains stern and steadfast. The elder Baratheon warns Renly to end his false claim, and the two come away from the negotiation without a peaceful resolution. Catelyn asks to take her leave, but Renly refuses, forcing her to remain in his camp to witness the fate of those who rebel against his claim. The next morning, as Renly readies for battle in his personal tent, with only Brienne of Tarth and Catelyn Stark as witnesses, he is stabbed and killed by a monstrous shadow, a devil of magic conjured by the Red Priestess Melisandre, closest advisor to Stannis Baratheon. Catelyn and Brienne realize no one would believe their story, and so flee from the camp to go northward back to Robb. Meanwhile, Sir Loras finds Renly's body and descends into a maddening rage, killing 3 of the Rainbow Guard members. With the beloved king in the south gone and his armies leaderless, most of his forces defect to join Stannis, while his most prominent supporters like Sir Loras and Lord Randall Tarly return to Bitterbridge. Rumors run amok over the manner and culprit of Renly's death, but only a few know the truth. Stannis, now indirectly a kinslayer, is plagued by nightmares of his brother and the Peach, nightmares which are only made less grim by the successful exponential increase of his army. Walled in at Storm's End, Sir Courtenay Penrose refuses to surrender to Stannis, or even hand over the bastard Edric Storm to him. But before long, Sir Courtenay himself is assassinated by a mystical shadow, same as Renly. Now fully prepared for war, Stannis approaches King's Landing, and the Battle of the Blackwater ensues. Though the victor is for some time uncertain, Renly Baratheon provides the crushing blow from beyond the grave. Leading the forces of Lords Mace Tyrell and Tywin Lannister in to crush Stannis' men is the form of Renly in his shining green armor. He kills at least a dozen knights, and is deemed to be King Renly's ghost. Upon witnessing this revelation, many of Renly's former men, who now serve Stannis, change sides to that of the Lannisters and Tyrells. Stannis is defeated and pushed back, and the Battle of the Blackwater ends by what many deem to be a specter of an enraged brother. In A Storm of Swords, Renly is the focus of both discussion and song. At Joffrey's wedding to Margaery, a song is performed of the great deeds of Renly's ghost upon the battlefield, striking an emotional chord of the Tyrells in attendance. Later, when Sir Jaime Lannister finally returns to King's Landing, he converses with Sir Loras, who reveals that Renly was buried at Storm's End, and that it was actually his brother, Sir Garland Tyrell, who wore Renly's armor during the Battle of the Blackwater, hoping to stir up dissent and appear as the ghost of the slain king. And in A Feast for Crows, Renly is mentioned but a little, in that Cersei's beloved Lady Taena Merryweather explains to the Queen Regent that she was in attendance at his wedding to Margaery, and that she believes the Queen of Highgarden may have lied in saying she and Renly never consummated their marriage. Without realizing it, Renly Baratheon has been training to assume kingship for his whole life. Early on, he lives in luxury and then sudden squalor with his brother Stannis in Storm's End, witnessing both the prosperity and hardship accompanied with being a ruler during times of peace and war. When Robert's rebellion is over, Renly tours across the lands over which he rules, showcasing his amiable personality and charismatic energy to his subjects. They fawn over him, gravitating to his exuberance, brightness, and flair for the finer things in life. Renly builds a rapport with his bannermen, and they grow to serve him out of love rather than fear. So, when the War of the Five Kings falls upon the land, it is the Green Stag from Storm's End, not Tywin Lannister or Stannis Baratheon, who is best suited for conflict. Due to his charm and the relationships he's built, Renly is able to rally House Tyrell behind him along with their lesser houses, assembling the greatest of the five armies vying for control in Westeros. He keeps morale high, providing the opportunity for entertainment and competition within his camp, waiting for the other forces to destroy each other. Though he is a king, upon whom great burdens and responsibilities lie, his outward appearance is that of casual relaxation. Renly may be going to war, but there is no doubt he will eventually reign supreme. He's brought down, however, killed by dark and unspeakable forces. From the loins of Melisandre, aided by Stannis Baratheon, a shadow figure of blood magic appears and kills Renly, ending his life and his chance at ruling Westeros. The hopes of his subjects are dashed, and his army is scattered to flight or new allegiance. Yet the mere fact he possesses such a large following during his brief reign in the south reflects the essence of his character. Renly has no legitimate claim to the Iron Throne. If the rumors of Joffrey's heritage are true, Stannis is the rightful king, and if they are false, then the crown is Joffrey's. Knowing this, many of the southern houses choose to follow Renly anyway. Even after his death, his very essence and idea inspire the soldiers of the Stormlands in the Reach, turning the tide in the Battle of the Blackwater. Renly would have made for the perfect king, balancing friendliness, fun, and the somber realities of ruling all in one. But it wasn't meant to be. The people of the Reach and the Stormlands believed in him, but Stannis possessed the magic and power of the Lord of Light, who brought about Renly's untimely and early demise. Lords and ladies, men and women, squires and maidens, all of the South, wept upon hearing of the death of King Renly. Shining in his green enameled armor and helm of glistening antlers, the brother of the deceased King Robert Baratheon was not only a sight full of splendor on the eve of battle, but also in everyday life. Renly possessed a joyous love which he spread to all his people, and they gave it right back, giving him the largest army in the War of the Five Kings. Loved and elevated by his subjects, Renly may have made for the best king of those who fought in the war, but the gods held other plans. He was cut down by dark magic, a pawn who thought he was a king in the great Game of Thrones. Renly had the makings of a legendary ruler, but his story was too good to be true. So, that's all for this video. Leave a comment with your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new here. I'd love to have you. Visit my website, russellawellsauthor.com, for exclusive fiction and more, and sign up for my mailing list for free exclusive content. The links for both can be found in the description below. And, like always, I will see you next time.